Hi, hello, welcome. So this is Heartcore Sales, not Hardcore Sales. And if you were following my patter from last week, I have the great pleasure of introducing the rather special Nicola Broomham, who is a recruitment specialist. And as my series last week demonstrated, recruitment is a mire of a topic. So thank you so much for being here, Nicola.
Thank you for having me.
So you were saying to me that actually your recruitment company itself hasn't been going for years and years and years and
Far
years.
from it. If anybody, if anyone's not familiar with what we do, so Broomham Recruitment itself is very much in startup phase, or kind of growing, hopefully, phase now. So set it up last January, right at the beginning of, 2.5 months before the pandemic hit. I went from being a self-employed recruiter to actually going and doing it properly and setting it up properly. So January last year, 2000, we launched Broomham Recruitment. And at the time I had Will and Jake, who both still work for me. And it went really well, and it just suddenly took off. And then, of course, March, global pandemic hit. We had been in our lovely, shiny new office 4 weeks. I'd been and kissed it out with all my new furniture, new tech, new everything. And as we all know, everything changed pretty much overnight. And within a week, we went from having lots and lots of placements that we'd made over 2.5 months to paying pretty much every single fee back because it was in a rebate. And every vacancy was pulled from our vacancy list. So we went from doing really well to having nothing in the bank, in fact, being in a negative, and nothing to work on. So it was quite hard, actually.
That's
really
incredible.
hard.
So did you have to furlough Will and Jake?
No. So I furloughed Will because at the time Will was, in fact, he's still doing it now. He's still doing a degree, which he does part-time. And so Will took that opportunity to work on his degree, and he went and moved back with his family for a while. And Jake, who was working for me, basically said to me, look, Nick, I'll work for you for free. Let's just use this time to try and push Broomham forward. We'll work on social media. We'll see if we can help people. And what we decided to do was we basically just helped everybody. So we kind of came online and said, look, we're recruiters. We look at CVs for a living. That's what we do. If you're looking for a new role when we come out of this global pandemic, or want some career advice or anything, ping a CV over, regardless of what industry you work in, and we'll try and help you. And that's pretty much what he and I did for about 2 months. And we just tried to do the best we could. Everyone was going through a really rubbish time, and all we wanted to do was try and help from a recruiter perspective to try and make it a little bit better. And I think I'd resigned myself to the fact that Broomham Recruitment as a business was sort of over and done with. I didn't think we were going to come out of it as a business again. I thought that was it, 2.5 months, and hey, we're back to the drawing board and probably have to do something new. And then actually all the government schemes kicked in. We had lots and lots of sort of financial support and bounce back loans and all that stuff. And the housing market came back really quickly. So very, very quickly, we were able to start to make placements again. And I think because of what we'd done during lockdown, we were really, really busy with lots and lots of people wanting us to help them recruit. And I ended up paying Jake back for all of his stuff that he'd done over lockdown. Took Will back off of furlough, recruited 2 new people, and by the time we were in June, we were a team of 5 and super busy. So,
oh my gosh, what a story! What a roller coaster!
Emotionally and mentally, it was a really, really hard time. I also have 3 children. So I have, what are they now? They are 11, 9, and 6. So at the point that we went into lockdown, 3 children at primary school, all in different years, all doing different work. And one very little one who she was only 4 at the point that we went into lockdown, because they just turned 6. And trying to explain everything to them whilst mummy and daddy were also trying to cope with businesses that were struggling was really hard. So, yeah.
Gosh, I can only imagine that's an awful lot to be juggling, isn't it? Crikey. But been through
But we're
it.
here.
Amazing.
We're here.
Amazing. So
We're
do you
here.
specialize in recruiting for the property industry?
Yeah. So we recruit only in the property space. So whether you be a traditional estate agent or a hybrid or a supplier, I would say probably we're about 60% agency, 40% suppliers or suppliers to the agency world. So, but anything, you give us a role, as long as there's a tenuous link to property, we pretty much have a go at it. HR, marketing, you name it, we filled it. So it's yeah, anything that relates to that really. And all the team are agents as well. They're all ex-agents, so they've kind of been there and worked in that space or spoken that language. So
You were
yeah.
you were an estate agent yourself in the past?
Yeah, I used to be a lettings director. So my background was I was originally worked for Romans back when it was owned by Dale, the original Romans, where we used to have our Friday night meetings in the pub. Because we were so small as a business that we could do that. It was brilliant, and then did a bit of corporate. Then I helped set up a lettings department in an estate agents that now still runs. And then I had kids and kind of couldn't go back into property. Actually, I found going back into estate agency really hard. Trying to juggle childcare and being a working mum just didn't fit. And having had 8 years out of the industry as well, despite the fact my husband and all my family are estate agents, legislation had changed, and I was a little bit behind. So I tried recruitment, and here I am.
And so, here you are. Amazing.
So, yeah.
Wow. That's really cool, I think, from a recruitment perspective as a client, as an estate agent client, thinking, actually, I'm going to put my business in your hands because my business. You have been an estate agent, your team have been estate agents. I think that must be really reassuring for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at least I hope so anyway. But I think the other thing as well is that our core sort of market that we work with, we don't tend to work with big corporates. We tend to work with the smaller independent agencies, and they're all in the same boat as me. We're all looking at our P&Ls. We're all looking at our cash flows. We're all needing to make sure that every recruit that we make and every placement that we make is right, because the cost of a bad hire, as we all know, is huge. And I've made mistakes. I've made massive mistakes in the last 20 months. Huge. Thankfully, the team that we have right now, Jake and Will, like I said, we're here from day one. Joanne's been here since we reopened in June. We've had a couple of people come and go that just haven't worked out for whatever reason. But I've learned a lot about recruitment myself from recruiting for myself, because it's very different recruiting when you're an employee within a business to when it's your own money. And I think that, a lot of the mistakes I've made, I can now share with our clients because I feel those pain points and I've been there. But we're very much, because of that, we're very much about, actually, let's elongate your recruitment process, not try and do it quickly. One of the problems and things that I realized is at times I've made a panic hire here where we've suddenly gone really, really busy. And I've gone, oh my God, I need a bum on a seat. I need someone who can answer phones and do this and do that. And I've hired very fast because somebody's available, not because they were the right person. And I think that the lessons that I've learned from that are huge. But the reality is that we're all human beings. And I think that my advice to anybody that is looking to hire or struggling to hire or going through a hiring process is ask other people's opinions within your team. I think a lot of the time I took too much of that responsibility of recruiting on my own shoulders and didn't think about things like, what were my guys saying? Were they all going to me, look, Nick, I don't like this, or actually they mentioned that when you weren't in the room, or look, we've got them in for a trial day and there's a couple of red flags for me. I only found these things out after I'd hired. And this was something that I found really early on, but speak to your team. They get your fit and they get your cultural stuff, and that's really important.
Absolutely. Do you know, one of the best bosses I ever had, he would interview people in front of the whole team. So we had like a sofa area at one end of the office, and every single interview happened on that sofa. So we were all working ostensibly, but all of us could pick up little bits that were being said, and very quickly, like your Will and your Jake, you know, as a real loyal member of that team, you have a little red flag warning that maybe as the interviewer you're not aware of because you're thinking of your next question or whatever. But different people can pick up on different things. I think that's a really great tip, actually.
The other thing as well is that we've started to put in much more of a structured interview process. So I was never taught how to interview, and most of us aren't. And interviewing is actually really difficult. It's a really hard thing to do. And you know, you made a point just then about thinking about your next question and not necessarily listening to what that person's saying.
Definitely.
That is a really difficult thing to control in an environment of interviewing. And I've recently been asked to sit in with a couple of our clients to actually sit in on interviews, just completely as an observer, just to stand back so that I can absorb what these individuals are saying, and also help guide the others on how they can improve their interview technique further down the line, because it's so difficult to do. And that's why I think having a structured interview is a really good thing as well. So, and what I mean by structured is looking at your job ad or your job spec. Your job ad and your job spec are different things. Your ad should obviously be trying to appeal, whereas your spec is effectively a list of duties. They aren't the same thing. Lots of people get confused and will quite happily put a spec as an ad. They're different.
I've seen that. It's like, that doesn't appeal.
No, just a list of bullet points.
Look at my values, or, you know, this is the kind of culture we have. It's just going, and any admin tasks as seen fit by the boss.
Exactly. And while we're on that, I'll come back to that, what I was going to say, but while we're on that, I think that you've got to bear in mind that if you're doing a job ad, you have to write it in a way where the person that's reading it is going to go, and I give a toss because. So every single point that you're putting in your job ad is, you need to be thinking about why they care about it. So for example, being an independent, market leading local estate agent means what exactly?
Well, Chris Watkins and I are on the same page for that with websites as well. You know, any of your marketing, but so many websites you go to, and it says exactly those three things. And you're like, excellent customer service. So what? And that's my and Chris is certainly as well, like the so what test. If you're just listing features, what does that mean? What's the benefit?
Exactly. And
even as a salesperson on the phone, you know, when you're booking a viewing, that should be the same thing. It's got 3 beds and space to park your car. That's not sales, is it? That's just listing features, and it's exactly the same thing. We should know this by now, shouldn't we?
We should do, but it's quite scary. I went to a conference recently, and I said to them, right, I want you to write down on your piece of paper 3 reasons why someone should join your company. And actually, it's a really good activity to do, is for you to actually sit and look at what your reasons are as to why someone would pick you over and above your neighbours. Because let's be honest, everyone's pretty much on estate agent row. So why would they pick you versus the company opposite? And so many of those reasons as to why they should pick them were the same reasons why they should instruct them on a sale or a let or something like that. And they're not the same things. Yes, there is a little bit of overlap, and I totally understand that there should be. For example, Generation Zs love a bit of things like, carbon offsetting and being carbon neutral, which actually, if you're appealing to a younger demographic of buyer, those types of things are really important. But really think about what would make someone want to join your business. And that comes down to things like your company values, that comes down to your culture, that's all of progression. It's the whole feel of your business as a whole. And that's why someone will join you, not because you're independent. What does independent even mean? Most people just view independent as being a set of brands that don't have loads and loads of offices. That's not even what it is. So I just think that trying to appeal to find new people needs to really be properly structured, in terms of, you can't just stick a job ad out and hope it's going to attract the right people. You need to properly think about who you're trying to attract, why you're trying to attract them, and how you're going to attract them. And only then will you actually get who you want. I had a conversation this morning with a client who's looking for a sales neg over in Surrey area. And she phoned me and said, "Oh, Nick, I really need your help. We need a sales neg." I don't know, basic was around about 18 grand. She said OT is about 30. I was like, cool, okay, what else? She went, well, what else do you need to know? It's like, everything. I need to know everything. I was like, I don't know anything about your business. What did you do on a Friday after work? If you got the radio on, what's the progression like? How do I earn commission? Where do I park my car? And she was like, oh, do you really need to know all that stuff? I was like, yes, I do. Because otherwise, how am I going to find you the right person? Far too often, recruiters get slated for flinging CVs and just sending inappropriate CVs. But if a company isn't willing to help that recruiter to make sure they're sending the right CVs, they will get flung shit, because that's what they're effectively asking for. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's got to be a two-way street, isn't it? It's like, it would be like someone asking me to write their website copy, but not giving me any information about flies, not giving me any information about who they are and what they do. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's people are funny, aren't they? I'm paying you to do this, go do it. Yeah, but
absolutely. So it's all of those things are really important when it comes to actually helping to recruit the right way. But there's going back to that whole interviewing thing, when I talked about doing structured interviews, what I meant by that was planning what you're going to ask. And one of the real challenges with interviewing, I guess my kind of two big takeaways from interviewing is, one, shut up. Because if you ask a question, it's really easy for you to actually answer that question for that person. So you need to just say, it doesn't matter if they don't know the answer and you sit there in silence for 2 minutes. Doesn't matter. You just have to shut your mouth, and just keep probing and keep saying, and why is that, and I used the analogy with a client a couple of months ago of doing interview is a bit like having one of those multi-layered cakes. So most people on an interview will just taste the icing on the outside. And what you really want to do is get all the way down through every single layer of that cake, pushing all the way through all 3 layers to get to the proper bottom of it, which is the really tasty bit on the inside, like a melt in the middle of chocolate pudding or something. But the problem is that you have to keep delving and delving and delving and delving, and only then will you start to truly get answers. And it's not an easy thing to do. And I would suggest that if anybody finds interviewing difficult, do some research. I'm more than happy to help on it. But also, it is a skill, and it's a bit like learning. It's a bit like driving. Most people think they're good at it, but the reality is they're probably not.
Yes, that's certainly true of many of the drivers I've met. My next question is going to have to be for those startup companies, because obviously over the pandemic, a lot of people have changed role, or they've set up their own, like yourself, set up your own company. So at what point do you think recruiting is the right thing to do? How do you grow? How does that even happen?
Well, one of the first things I did was I found a very good mentor. Now, I am a huge fan of mentors. There are free ones out there through companies like Agents Together, but there are also lots of mentors, who are absolutely worth every single penny. Now, on that, I would interview them. And I say this because I met with a few mentors or potential mentors. And I think I came out of 3 of those meetings going, and just feeling totally uninspired. And then the guy that I now use, who is a chap called Mark, who also has an accountancy firm. So what it means is that he can mentor me from a business perspective, but also look at my accounts at the same time and help me with both. I came out of my meeting with him absolutely pumped. I remember getting in the car, phoning my husband, going, "Oh my God, I can do this and this, this and this, 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 this." And it was brilliant. So he actually said to me, and he very much guided me on this, and he pointed me in the direction of reading The E-Myth, which is a book that changed my life overnight. Stupidly, I didn't read it when he told me to read it, and I read it about 5 months later. And had I read it when he told me, it would have made my life easier. But honestly, if you own a small business, it is the book. It's like the Bible of small businesses. So
Completely
I
agree.
would say you have to read that. So, but also I think he said to me very early on, he was like, right, Nick, what are you struggling with? Where are your challenges? And when I started to list down all of my barriers of why my business wasn't growing, ultimately it came down to the fact that I was being so absorbed and so taken over by admin. So for me, I could do BD, stood on my head. I loved that part of my job. That bit was a bit I really enjoyed. Making placements was a bit I really enjoyed. I absolutely hated writing job ads, and I hated having to, do various different administration tasks that ultimately took me away from generating income. And as soon as I started to list all of those things that I do on a daily basis, what I did was I removed from that list all the things that weren't revenue generating, and it was huge. And so I thought to myself, right, if I can bring somebody in to do that revenue generation, do that part, I can focus on revenue generation, and hence why I hired Will, who came in at the time as like I said, he was doing his final uni degree, came in with oodles of enthusiasm and has now worked himself all the way up from being a kind of trainee admin to trainee recruiter to now client manager, and is probably probably is, as it currently stands, our best performer. So
What a guy. That's awesome. It's
he
really
is awesome.
similar to me. Like I started as a tiny little baby sales nag, never even been in the industry before, and then within 3 years I was the company director. I
Wow.
think you can start at the bottom. Someone said hi, Elwood, but I can't see who you are. So hi, thank you for joining us. I think if you one thing that we learned from our recruiting journey anyway was to sometimes recruit people with no experience, or the values that you have, not necessarily every single skill that you have that you need, because you can grow them as long as they've got
Hmm.
attitude. You can grow the aptitude. Is that the right way around?
Yeah, absolutely. Hire for the skills that you can't teach is what we say.
Yes.
And that's easier said than done. But again, you need to think about that in your recruitment process in terms of how are you going to ascertain that, and how are you going to find that out. So, but yeah, I mean, he's fantastic, and I wouldn't be without him. And if anyone tried to tap him up, they'd have me to answer for. But it's like fighting talk. But yeah, in terms of when is the right time to recruit, I think you need to calculate your own value. And if you're trying to do too much on your own that's stopping you from actually driving that business forward, then that would be my point of when you need to hire. But also, I think the other thing as well is that, when you're looking at yourself and doing a bit of self-reflection as well, I think it's really important to look at what you're good at and what you're not good at too. I think outsourcing now is a brilliant thing to do because, there are so many suppliers to our industry and so many things that you can outsource. You'd be crazy not to, especially if it's something that you need temporarily, but not necessarily all the time. I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but for example, if you need, we've outsourced copywriting, we've outsourced marketing, you get companies now like Moneypenny where you're outsourcing your telephone systems, obviously recruiting, all of that stuff you can outsource, and if you don't need it permanently, that would be something that I would certainly look at least initially, to perhaps get you over that psychological barrier of bringing somebody into your business, because there are a lot of implications, obviously, in terms of your responsibilities as an employer. I would also say that if anybody's thinking about going down the route of bringing somebody in perhaps on a self-employed basis, do your research. There are lots of legal contractual things that are going to be coming in, things like IR35 and all those sorts of stuff. And I think you need to make sure you're putting together a package that is really appealing, to somebody if you want to go down that route. it's quite a noisy space at the moment, the self-employed space. There's a lot of different options out there. So if you want to bring that in as something you offer to people, then do your research on it. But yeah, they would be my two key drivers. What do you need help with, and what are you not good at? So that would be where I came in. So
I think am I unmuted? Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself. The dogs keep woofing. No, I think those are really great points actually to write down everything that you are doing and which bits you could maybe not be doing and someone else could be doing, and freeing your time up. And I think that the E-Myth is brilliant for describing that in far more eloquent way than I'm managing. The dogs, the dogs join.
No, that's cool. That's fine. But the other thing with recruiting at the moment is it can be a little bit soul destroying, and I think you need to keep your chin up. Whether you're, I mean this as an employer, keeping your chin up. The market at the moment is currently hard, and there are a lot of counter offers going on. And I think for anybody that wants to try and make sure that they're retaining their people as much as hiring new ones, you need to open dialogue with your team members. You need to be having conversations with them about their happiness, their growth, their well-being within the company, whether or not whether they feel they need investment, what they would like to see more of, all of those types of things. I think a lot of the conversations that the team are having with people that are looking to jump ship or change to a different company normally revolve around the fact that they don't know what's going on within a business. They don't feel valued. They are sort of the key drivers at the moment that are pushing people to make a change and to leave companies. So if you're perhaps watching this thinking, oh Christ, the idea of having to recruit new people fills me with dread, make sure you're looking after your existing.
I think that's a really key point. I mean, I'm putting together a huge well-being package for business owners to be able to be providing that to their staff, because I think it's so much, like we say with customers, you're going to get more benefit from keeping a customer happy than you are from trying to recruit a new one. It's just maths, isn't it? And I think very much the same thing with recruitment.
Absolutely. It's
my
really key.
Battery might be about to die, so
we're all good.
I think that I'm going to have to say cheerio and say a massive thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.